it was.
And he had a lot of books.
He had a lot of books, and there's so many scenes of him coming in and him be like reading, and the other guy being like, oh,
He's like, I love this guy. He's my best friend.
Okay, yeah. So like this scene, yeah, I get it. Like, you know, for an average American or any foreigner, it kind of looks weird, right? Like this guy he's sleeping and like all these books around, and this guy's like almost looking at him and affectionately and says, "I love you, dude." Like, what a bro. And you're like, what the hell does this even mean, right? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we just have to talk a little bit about this era that this was in, and a little bit about like some of the subcultures that actually were there at the time. So in 1920, you would think that about less than 10%, maybe 8% of the country was literate, okay? Couldn't, like 90 plus percent couldn't read and write. Women, like practically no women could read and write, except the ones that living in cities or something, but basically nobody could read and write. So there was a lot of education destroyed by colonialism. Now, to be fair, like education started getting destroyed even before, like with the Islamic invasions, they destroyed all the universities, but at the village level, there were still some, but when the British came, they completely destroyed all the education. In fact, an American historian, his name is Will Durant, he came to India in 1930 and he wrote about it. And he says that the entire British Raj, the amount of money that they had set aside for education in 1930, in their entire like budget for education, was less than the high school budget of the state of New York in 1930. And this is not the India you know today. This is India plus Sri Lanka plus Bangladesh plus Burma plus Nepal plus Pakistan, okay? So basically they didn't spend a cent on like education. And of course, why would they? Because that's not what they were here to do. So traditionally, like India was a very educated country, right? Because even the British records will say that, yeah, there was a primary school like in every village. Okay, so people would learn to basically just read, write, basic math, and they'll teach them Ramayana, Mahabharata. I think that was the basic thing, right? So people were educated, right? And you'll see lots of ancient books coming from India and so many texts. But what happened, like when people were largely uneducated, right? So it creates a different subculture. It's kind of funny, you know, like people would boast about like relatives that they've never met just because the guy, you know, went to high school. You know, they'd be like, oh, you know, I have this distant relative, and so I'm better than you are, you know, things like that. So that actually happened. Like you'll hear like all these stories from their grandparents because because people admire education. If you know anything about Indians, you'll notice that, yeah, they always try to get as the best education they can, you know. So they've always had that, but they never had any opportunities. So basically, it was a country of they're called Angutha chops, okay, which means thumb imprinters because they couldn't sign their name. So that's what India was. Now, historically, this character, right, Komaram Bhim, right, he was not very educated. He could just about read and write, right? So he's seeing his friend. So what he's looking at him and saying, look at that. That's my buddy. That's my friend. That's my bro. Look how educated he is. Look at all the books he can read, you know? And then he like goes like that, like, you know, like he gets pumped up, you know? He's actually feeling so proud, right? He's like, I've got bragging rights now. I've got boasting rights. Do you know anyone that educated? I have a friend, you know, who's so educated. What do you have? It's something like that. That's literally how the culture used to be back then. It is funny, like especially like in hinterland India, like in rural India back then, like if somebody actually went to high school or managed to go to college, people all over the district would know, oh, there's that one guy there, you know, he studied so much, like wow, you know, things like that. So this is actually just taking us back and like giving you an idea of like, you know, how things were that, yeah, you'd feel so proud if you knew somebody who could like read and write so much. That's basically it.